Hi guys, and welcome to Mum's Corner. Today isn't going to be the happiest, most upbeat video ever, but I've been sort of struggling with this again lately, and I've been inspired by another YouTuber to put it out there and hope that it does some good, me putting it out there, just because, you know, sometimes it's important to share the bad things that happen to you so other people can learn from them and know that it does get better and you can feel whole again after losing something so precious. As you would have seen by the title, I was pregnant with twins. And they suffered from twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, and we ended up losing them, and I'm going to tell you my story. I actually found out I was pregnant, I think it was a day or two before my wedding, and I'd already had my daughter Ellie. She was about 8 months old, I think, when we got married. And we were really happy. We were sort of like, this is the start of our marriage, and we've got another baby on the way. It's so exciting. And we went on honeymoon afterwards, and yeah, on my actual wedding day, I took a test in the morning that said 1 to 2 weeks pregnant, which is more like, I think it's 3 to 4 weeks, because obviously it was the 2 weeks. If you know how that works, then you know what I'm on about. If not, basically, the 2 weeks before you conceive, you're still pregnant. They still count in your 40 weeks, but on like Clear Blue tests, it doesn't include them, so your first 2 weeks don't show up. So if it says 1 to 2, you're 3 to 4, and it says 2 to 3, you're 4 to 5, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that was my wedding day, and it went really well, and it was a good day and a good week, and we went to Bournemouth for our honeymoon and kept making jokes about our baby sneaking on honeymoon with us, kind of thing. And I had really bad morning sickness. I was waking up at like 3 o'clock at night to go to the toilet and throw up. Luckily, we lived in a really small place, and it was like literally, I could hop off of my bed, and there was about like this much space between my bed and the bedroom door, and then a similar amount of that space to the bathroom door, so I could just whoosh, and I was there. And yeah, it was really annoying, but I was fine with it. And I don't think me and Lee had even been married, like it was like a month or two, and I was playing Final Fantasy IX, just sat on the sofa, and I felt like a trickle on my leg, and I thought, okay, my bladder's not that bad, I haven't weed myself, have I? So I had a look, and it was blood, so I called up the hospital, and they said, look, you got to come in. And then I did, and they looked me over, and they saw a sac but no baby. And at this point I was really upset. I thought that we'd lost the baby. They thought that I'd lost the baby, and they said, look, you have to come back in, I think it was like 2 weeks, and we will double check, just to, I assume they were thinking, to make sure that it's sort of out of my system, or if, you know, just to make sure that it's not just slowly developing. So that was the longest 2 weeks of my life. But we went back in, and there was something in the sac this time, and it was still there. And after a while, I was sort of looking at the sonographer, and she was looking at my ultrasound, and it was sort of like, is everything okay? And she was like looking and looking and looking, and she was like, you've got twins. And then she said something which really scared me. She said that she was, she thought she saw another one and she was just making sure. I'm like, no thank you. Twins was scary enough, and I did stress out a lot about it, and I had a lot of anxiety, and I highly doubt that helped the situation. A few weeks down the line, we had to go back again because they were worried about I can't remember what it was, but basically the thing that goes between them, to separate them, because they were in separate. No, they were in the same sac, but there's like a thin thing separating them or something. And they wanted to make sure that that was okay. And the first time we went back, they said it was. And then we went back again, and they said that we needed to go up to St. Michael's for like a detailed thing. And we went up there, and they told us that it wasn't actually okay, and that we had twin transfusion syndrome, and that we need to come back. I think at first it was every week or every 2 weeks, and as it developed, we had to go near as damn it every day. And during this time, I had a few bleeds. I had a really, really bad one, and I was like leaking blood all over the floor everywhere, and had like clots and stuff, and I really thought that we'd lost them. And at the time, I wasn't really sure how I felt about that. And yeah, back in hospital, I was in and out a few times, and they wouldn't have me on the pregnancy ward, like the which I thought was weird, because they did when I had to go into hospital with Ellie, because I was in latent phase labour and I was in so much pain, so they kept me in hospital for observation. But yeah, so at this point I was about 16 weeks, I think, and they offered me to have a laser, I think it was laser ablation or something like that, to try and separate the cells that were causing the twin transfusion syndrome. And at this point I was willing to try anything, and we were told not to really get our hopes up, but they did have a sort of like a decent percentage. They gave me some pain, or some stuff to make my belly numb, basically, and within 5 minutes I'd thrown that up. So they gave it to me again, and some anti-sickness medicine. Then I had to lay on this table and basically watch as they stuck this huge needle in me, and you could see, it's like an ultrasound, you could see it going in and stuff. And thank you, Alex. Thank you. It was really painful. I wasn't expecting it to be, and I could feel the tugging, and it was so uncomfortable. They said that it would just feel like a tiny bit of tugging, but it felt awful and horrible, and I just wanted it to be over, and I started crying. And it wasn't successful, and pretty much as soon as As soon as I'd had it done, I stood up and I was walking out of the hospital, and I had this massive gush of, I think it was like umbilical fluid stuff. I don't know. I had this massive gush of this fluid, and it was like pink, and it smelled like what comes from your womb when your waters break. And basically what had happened was the needle had pierced my sac, and it was all coming out, and it continued to do this for the next month. They kept me in hospital for the majority of that month, taking regular scans, which is how we found out that the ovulation wasn't successful. We were then released from hospital. The week before my daughter and my husband's birthday, because their birthdays there's one day between them, and they told us percentages of survival and brain damage and stuff like that, and like one twin could survive and one might not, and they said we had basically two choices, and those choices were to either terminate the pregnancy and, as they put it, end the suffering that the twins were going through, or to wait it out for another month and deliver them at 24 weeks, with a chance that they might not even survive the birth, and or like afterwards they might not make it. They'd obviously be in the special care unit for babies, and that they might not make it. They might be on life support for a long time. They might have brain damage. And I felt really pushed into the decision to terminate the pregnancy. And I really didn't want to, but everybody, like medical people and people around me, were saying that they're suffering and they're in pain, and I didn't want them to be, so me and Lee had a talk about it, and we decided that to help them, we would terminate the pregnancy. So we did. They wouldn't let us wait an extra couple of days, which I thought was a bit rubbish, especially considering that, you know, we could have taken that extra few days to make a decision, or we could have waited till 24 weeks. I thought it was silly. So on my daughter's birthday, I took the first the tablet thing that basically stops the nutrients and stuff coming from me to them. And then, yeah, I had to go into hospital on her birthday to take that, and then we went to Bristol Zoo and I was in a wheelchair because of all the stuff was still coming out of me, the fluid stuff, and whenever I stood up. On Lee's birthday, I think it was in the afternoon, I had to take the second tablet, which would essentially induce labour because I had to deliver them. And we were told that it would take hours, and sort of 24 to 48 hours. And I think within 3 hours I was getting some cramps and some aches and feeling a lot of pressure. And a couple of hours after that I went into labour, and during that I got a text from one of my really close friends at the time, telling me while I was in labour with these babies that I couldn't keep that she was pregnant. So, yay. I was really happy for her, but her timing could have been so much better. And yeah, so I had the first twin. I was keeping it together as much as you can when you're in labour, and then I felt that because I had a large gush of blood come out, and they hadn't moved him, he was still down there, and I could feel him on my leg, and I knew that the blood had gotten on him, and I just started crying, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't, and I was still in so much pain, and I still had to have another baby. And I did, and they were just down there together, and they didn't move them for a while, and then they took them both away, and I didn't get to hold them. I didn't even get to see them until the next day. And we were waiting for my placenta to come, but it retained, which is exactly what it did with Ellie. With my daughter as well, which meant even though I had a home birth accidentally with her, I had to go into hospital and I had to be operated on to extract the placenta, which is what happened again. And by the time that they had space for me to come and get it, I was really cold and completely out of it. I don't know if it was medication or loss of blood, but all I could hear was ringing in my ears, like, and you know that sort of the noise those lights make, the really long ones. I could hear that ringing really loud, and I couldn't hear what the doctor was saying to me. And he was asking me a question, and I was just like nodding because I didn't know what was going on. And Lee was like holding my hand, looking at me, and I was like, yeah, I'm cold. And as I was taken out of the doors to theatre, my mum was stood there, and she saw me, and she honestly thought that I wasn't going to make it myself, and I wasn't really sure. I passed out before I got to theatre, and when I woke up, I couldn't move. I was led in this bed by myself, unable to move, and I didn't know where my babies were or where my husband was. And eventually they came, and I started being able to slowly like move my arms and my legs and stuff. They moved me into a private room, and they brought the babies to us in this little basket with a blanket over them, and I wasn't allowed to hold them. They were just in this basket on my lap, but I stroked their hands and their faces, and they were so cold. Sorry. This was 3 years ago. It's still. They sent pastoral care, I think it was, to us, and they arranged all the funeral stuff, and we got to make a few decisions, but obviously we couldn't afford to pay for something proper. And they were buried together, which was our decision, because I wanted them to be together. And the second one was Rex, so on the little tiny coffin it said their names was Luke and Rex. and yeah, it was a little white coffin, and we've got to throw dirt on it and any little belongings. And then they said some words, and we asked for nothing religious because we're not religious people. Although sometimes I wish that we were, because people seem to find a lot of peace in religion, but I can't help what I believe, or don't, as it were. But yeah, as the woman was saying these words, I had Ellie with me on my hip because she was still quite little. She was just 1, and she pointed down to them, and then she pointed up to the sky, and I thought it was like maybe she could see their spirit going up. Yeah, when I went, I left hospital by this point, but when I got home from hospital that first day, I felt completely numb, and for a good week I couldn't bring myself to even change Ellie's nappies. I spent most of the week led in on like a inflatable bed, because we stayed around my dad's because we just weren't in any state to be by ourselves. And I suppose he looked after us, really. And yeah, I just laid there in that bed feeling numb, regretting stuff, and occasionally having to go to the bathroom to change my pad because it was still leaking that stuff for a while afterwards. And sleepy boy. Well, we got photos of them, but we never got any of those footprints or handprints or anything, which they had promised they would get us, but they never did. Yeah, a year later, I enrolled in college, and I was sort of, you know, okay. Me and Lee have been through some stuff. I think we both were in a bit of a bad place afterwards, as you'd probably expect, and made some mistakes. And yeah, so in early September, I took a pregnancy test, and I found out that I was pregnant, and it was either 6 or 8 weeks, I can't exactly remember. I think it was 6. So I was on a performing arts course, which involves a lot of physical strain. You do like dancing, and I think I had to do a bit of ballet as well and stuff like that, and it's very competitive apparently. And so I spoke to my tutor and basically explained that I'd had a lot of complications in previous pregnancies, and I didn't really want to risk anything by pushing myself or my body too hard. So I quit out of the course, which I think for me was a hard thing to do, because it took a lot for me to sign up to that course in the first place. But yeah, I wanted to make sure that my baby was safe. This baby here. And I'm really glad I did, because in my 3rd trimester I spent a lot of it in hospital with him. I think he was led on me just the wrong way and stuff, and there was a worry that he had gestational diabetes, or I had gestational diabetes, however that works. But that came back clear after some tests and stuff. But most of the 10 weeks or something. I was in and out of hospital and spent a lot of time in there. I think I was in like every room, which each room has like 4 beds, and I think I was in every room apart from one, just in and out. And obviously I didn't get to see Ellie much or very long because I've been in and out, and I was really worried it was something to do with, because I've still got a scar from when they did the needle thing. I was really worried that all the stuff that's happened to my body because of the twins meant that it was causing trouble with him. I still don't know what was causing trouble with him, but he came 5 weeks early, and we had to stay in hospital for 3 weeks after he was born as well. So I basically lived in hospital. But he really brought me back to life again, and even though I had to give up college for him, there's no reason that I can't join again in the future if I want to. And I mean, just look at him. Isn't he worth it? Isn't he? Yeah. And while he will never ever replace the twins, like, I'll always have my memories of being pregnant with them, even though they weren't fantastic, and a lot of them were stressful and worried, and I still have some good memories, and I still have those photos, and we have a grave to go to if we feel like we need to talk to them. But I have that, and I have him. And Ellie was one of the best things that ever happened to me, because she just gave me a purpose, basically. He brought me back to life after I went so numb after the twins, and he's just started crawling, and I cannot believe it. And it's just the little things that he does. Like, every day I feel more like me again, and I still have a lot of times where I'm like, well, who am I? Because before the twins I knew who I was, and I was very confident in my parenting skills, and I knew what I wanted to do. But after them, I just lost that. I lost who I was, and I'm still trying to find it, but I don't know if I ever really will find it again. But for now, I've got my kiddies and my husband, and YouTube now, I guess, is something that I really enjoy doing, and that's why I'm sharing this with you. And I hope that if you've gone through it, or you are going through it, that this video has helped you in some way, and that you know that you're not alone. You want to come up? And if you are going through it and they are trying to push you, or like you feel like they're trying to push you into terminating it because it's less work for them, basically, to terminate it than to try and put them on the baby care thing, like the special infant unit. Don't let them push you into something that you don't want to do. Take your time and really think about what is best for you and your family, because at the end of the day, it's going to affect you for the rest of your life, no matter what decision that you make. So make sure you make the right one. And if you have gone through it, then just keep looking forward. Find stuff to do that makes you happy, and don't waste time dwelling on it, because I know that's easier said than done. But cry as much as you bloody well want at the start, and then once you've got it all cried out, you can focus on getting your life back together again and being happy again, no matter what that takes. And also, if you have a friend going through it, be there for them, but don't keep reminding them of it. Just distract them with fun, happy things. Because when I went through it, the majority of my friends just went away, and I don't really know why. Maybe they felt awkward being around us because they didn't know what to say. But anything other than reminding us, basically. And saying things like, well, at least you can have another baby, or at least they're together, and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't make it hurt any less, so there's no point saying it. Okay? Just bear that in mind. Thank you for watching. Bye.